Hello, this is Donna Kato. Welcome to my channel. Now, what you see before you are my original mudcloth canes. And you know, I made these when we had CraftArtEdu. It's been a number of years. But this was one of my very best-selling classes. Sold a lot of these classes. And, you know, at the time they ranged, I think, from like $120 for the class. It's a big class. And then, you know, as it got older, it went down to 80. And now I still do sell this class. So for that reason, I can't just now decide to give away how to make these canes. I mean, that wouldn't be very good. People have spent a lot of money to learn how, and so I just can't do that. This was of course from the original class. These semicircular beads, and this is still one of my favorite pieces. I'm going to replace this clasp with my my new clasp because I think it's a much better design and more substantial. Now, this is something I think I've showed you. I use these canes in another class on my YouTube channel. So here's another use for the canes. And, you know, surprisingly, these canes are the same canes I made all those many years ago. I have just hung on to them, and I have them in a box, and every now and then I pull them out and use them because I really like them a lot. So, because I can't show you these does not mean that we can't embark on a new series of mudcloth canes, and that way the folks who purchased this class won't really be able to say much, and they can learn some new ones for nothing. So, that's what we're going to do. Why? Because these are things I happen to really love. Now, this is the cane we'll be making. First one, we're just going to do 2 canes today. And with those 2 canes, we're going to make some simple earrings. And here they are. All right, so you can see that this is there. And then we're making a simple bullseye, but a bullseye with a difference that you will soon discover. And this is the second of the canes. Now, over I don't know how long, I will continue to put up more and more of these mudcloth canes. And, you know, as you make them and as you acquire a nice little collection of these canes, you'll discover new and different ways of using them. And perhaps with some luck, I will come up with something that uses these along with perhaps Starry Night canes. I think they go together. And indeed, even a zipper cane. So I'll show you. This is something quite simple that I used. I used this cane, and then I had a zipper, and the zipper cane had this green in it. So I found that I could not use this one with that green stripe or green tape, as we would call it. So I should make a new zipper cane that coordinates better with this color scheme if I want to use it in a piece. So there you go. Yeah, something's missing from here, and I think it's just the fact that I didn't have enough elements to play with and put together, but I'm working on it. We'll work on it together. So having said that, welcome to Mud Class on new mudcloth canes. We're going to have some fun. So let's get started. So let's begin. Now, the first cane I'm going to show you is this bullseye. Now, bullseyes we make a lot, and they tend to be very uniform and even when you use a pasta machine, because of course we're producing very flat, smooth sheets. Well, I wanted to make a bullseye with lines that were a little bit jagged and not perfectly smooth. And I had to think for a while about the best way to do it. And I came up with some very complicated ways of doing it. And then finally I came up with just a technique that is so simple and it works so well. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to be using these exact colors though. I'm going to be using these colors. Because with mud cloth, you don't, to the best of my knowledge and in my Googling around, I haven't seen a lot of this kind of green. So today we'll stick with colors that are more traditional. And here, I'm going to show you on my iPad what we're going to do. This is really what I wanted to try to replicate. This little bullseye has a very small eye, and then it has a white wrap, then it has this nice coppery wrap, another white wrap, black, and then finally it is enveloped in a color that to me appears to be this darker copper with white in it. Now my colors aren't exact matches, but I think that they're decently close. If I wanted to make this color more like this one, as you see on my iPad, I'd probably add a little bit more of the coppery mix to it. So let's just get going here. Okay, so this deeper copper, what this is brown, my package brown, one package, with 1/8 package of copper mixed in. This color is then equal portions of this and white, and that produces this color. So those are my colors, and of course the black and white. So let's start by rolling that tiny eye. I'll make the cane about that wide, I think. You guys know me, I don't make huge canes. And particularly with something like this, you know, it's such a simple cane to make. I can make it over and over again rather than making a huge one and then storing it. And the eye is, relative to the rest of the cane, pretty small. These, you see, I made the eye quite a bit larger, but this time I will make it tiny. So we'll start with it tiny. Like so. Now the next thing I'm going to do is wrap it with white. And this is where wanting that little jagged edge to the white comes in. So I'll take my white, I'm going to cut a piece the same width as the cane, like so. And I want it to be quite a bit thinner. If I were to actually wrap it this way, it's a little bit thick, I think. But let's look. It's actually a good thickness, I think, after looking, so I'm going to stick with this. Now this has been rolled through setting number 3 on my pasta machine. Now let's make that jagged edge. Really, really simple stuff. You know, it'd be simple if I could find what, oh, here we go. I use these texture sponges, all right? Now this feels like a kind of a finer grain than this one. You can see how much more coarse this is. And I've been using 2 of the finer ones, so I will continue using these. This I am going to explore though, because I think this could be really good. All right, so I'm going to take the white clay, sandwich it between these two sheets. Roll it through the pasta machine. And I get, of course, texture on both sides. Now I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to try to make this an exact wrap because there's no rolling it against my work surface. Just want to gently close it there. And I don't want to lose the texture. Okay. Like so. So I haven't taken it and gone like this. If I were to do that, I would undo the texturing. All right, so let's move on to the next color. And I will probably put, at least 2 wraps of this around. So I will texture this. This time I only need to texture one side. Once again, I had pre-rolled all these sheets through setting number 3 to begin with. And now texture side down, I'm going to put it against the white. Close it. And as this is already smooth, I can roll like so, because I'll be pushing texture against texture on the inside. I'm gonna cut a bit away. All right, so let's wrap again. This time the wrap goes around the outside. Now it looks like, you know what, I'm gonna roll this through again. Well, first of all, let me see, do I want a 3rd wrap? Is this thick enough? I think I'm gonna put a 3rd wrap on. So I'm just going to wrap this one like so. And of course, by putting a 3rd wrap on, I'm making that black eye in the center even smaller. It's not going to be quite as small as the pattern I'm following, but it will be smaller. Like so. Okay. I'm going to take a 3rd wrap, and you know what, this time I'm sandwiching it because I want a deeper pattern. Actually, this time I think I will use this. And let's put a far deeper pattern on. Okay. Gonna give it a go. Why not? Why not? And I'm going to wrap it so that the texture is around the outside. And then join them like so. So let's take a look at what we have so far. Okay, that's pretty good, but this line is still a bit too straight. See what happened here? It's a little, the line is a little more textured. So what I'm going to do to make this more deeply textured, the white, for instance, I'm going to reset the machine, roll it through a thinner setting so that the sponges push deeper into the clay. It's funny how you make these things and they're just perfect. Yesterday was just perfect. And today I come down to my studio, I think I'm doing exactly the same thing, and it's not as perfect. Okay, so this, I rolled this through 3, right? And then I rolled it again. I'm going to sandwich this piece again, and I'm going to roll it through 4 to get a deeper texture. Okay, let's give it a go. My only concern is that the line may be, the white line may be significantly thinner. If it is, then I've got to do it again. Okay. Reset the machine. Send it through. And let's see what we've got now. Much more textured. More deeply textured. Just going to wrap it around. I can see how much more textured it is. So what have we learned? The deeper the texture, the more you get that nice, imperfect, textured line. I really like these canes with the textured lines. I like them. I think this has a lot of potential for other things I'm doing. Okay, so let's take the black. Now the black line is, let me get my iPad up again. Hello, iPad. Looks to be just about the same, maybe just a tad thicker than the white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this black and I'm going to roll it through the pasta machine. This is, remember, setting number 3. I'm going to sandwich it, but as I did with this sheet of white, I'm going to more heavily texture it by rolling it through the next thinner setting. Okay, the sheet was 3. I am now rolling this through the equivalent of 4. My machine starts at 0. I mean, life might be a little simpler if the machine started at, 1. So when I say 3 to you, I'm talking about machines that start at 1. Have I confused everybody enough? I have confused myself. Some atlases start at start at 1, and some start at 0. For some reason, this particular batch starts at 0. All right, so this is what we have so far, and you can see that that white line is quite a bit more like that than this one, right? And that's because, of course, the depth of the impression made with the sponge. All right, moving on. We're moving to this color. This is what I'm going to wrap around. I want it to be long enough. So I'm going to roll this through the same setting, setting number 3. Actually, I rolled it through setting, the wrong setting. I'm going to roll it through the original setting 3. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to put this, sandwich it between the sponges and reset the machine to the next thinner setting. And I'm gonna roll through. A little bit of black schmutz right there, not a problem. I will simply put it next to the black wrap. And I should get nice texture by putting the textured side against the textured side, right? And I textured both sides so that I would get that nice deep texture. Of course, the texture is more shallow. Wrapped it the wrong way. After saying I was going to wrap it with the black against the black, I then did the opposite. What can I say? It's early Saturday morning. I haven't had enough coffee yet. No, I will roll. Let me take a cut, and you can see, I just love that jagged edge. I love it. I love it. This is going to be very useful for me. And once again, I'm a little bit off in terms of the ratios of color. Maybe this dot should have been even tinier, right? I didn't do a very good job of exactly replicating what this is. The dot, the black in the middle, should have been smaller, or this color should have been increased. But I'm still pretty happy with it. I'm not unhappy. Maybe next time I'll make the white wraps a bit thinner, but hey. All right, so let's set this aside and move to the next one. I like it. This goes in my scrap pile. Oh, okay, it's time for the second cane. Now, here is what it looks like. All right. So as you can see, we're only going to be using black and white clay. Now, I am tired of my hands drifting off screen all the time, so I have put this little piece of tape. It's a cat. And I am just going to keep aiming my hands over this little kitty cat. So let's see how that works. Hopefully, it will help. All right, also need, of course, 2 sponges. So let's begin. Now, I've conditioned my clay, and this is blackout clay, so you can see it's not totally black. It's sort of a very, very, very dark gray. So what I'm going to do is roll up this very, very dark clay into a very large cylinder. I'm hoping that little kitty face works and that I do not black out. Get so carried away with what I'm doing that I forget I even have a camera on my hands. I know, it's kind of hard to believe I forget, but there it is. Okay, so let's roll that in. And I'm going to take the second piece and roll that in as well. Okay. I don't know exactly how much clay this is, but I must tell you that when I make my canes, I really don't start by measuring out clay or anything like that. I just start. And in a case like this, of course, since I've mixed this black, it is, well, I can see this is going to work out just fine. Come on, guys, stay. Which is to say it's not going to work out that well. All right, and getting back, I do not really measure out the amount of clay I'm going to be using, but if I'm making black, of course, I have to have some idea. I don't want to have to mix more black and have it so far off. So this is the amount of clay I'm going to use. All right. Goodbye, kitty. Just going to have to try to aim right there. All right. Now, I'm going to make this a plug. I'm going to shorten this down to about 4 inches. Just keeping my hands below the camera thing shouldn't be as difficult as it is. But I guess that's what happens if you're a solo YouTuber and you don't have anyone helping you out. I'd be interested to know how many people just work as I do, alone, sitting in her basement, fending off the dogs and the cats and the stray sound of a clothes dryer clunking in the background. Okay, so let's see how long this is. And it is a little less than 4 inches, but that's fine. So I'm going to cut this in half now. Oops. 2 inches approximately. Okay. They appear to be pretty much the same size. This one I think is a little smaller, so I'm going to work with this one first and set this one aside. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take this and cut the 4 sides to make a square. All right, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to cut quite a bit off And you'll understand why I'm doing it this way later. Okay. Like so. Okay, so I think you can see that. And let me just cut it away. This is one of those situations where I do not feel I have to be quite as precise as in other instances. Okay, now let's look at what's happening on the other side. And it is square. It might be a little bit larger. So I will just try to even it out a bit. Like so. All right. Now, I am going to round the corners slightly just by taking and rolling each corner so it's not really, really sharp. Just round it slightly. Now I'm going to roll my white clay through a thinner setting. Right now it has been rolled through the thickest setting. You have some choices here, of course. Here, this white is actually pretty bold. And then I made another one. Here's another one. And you can see the difference. You see how thin this line is? Well, that's up to you. And determining the thinness of the line really depends on how thick or thin that white clay happens to be. So I want to make it kind of bold, not this really sort of fine wispy one. I'm going to make this one. Okay, let me set that aside. So this has been rolled through the thickest setting of the pasta machine, and that would be fine. So I am going to use it, but I have to make it longer. Let me see if it'll wrap around. Oh, it will wrap around, so I'll just use this. Okay, so let me just cut, and it should be about 2 inches. Oops. Now let's roll this through the same setting, sandwiched between these two sponges. Okay, excellent. So I've got a nice texture there. And I will start here. Let me trim off some of the excess. It's not exactly 2 inches, but it didn't start out as exactly 2 inches either, did it? Okay. Now, I'm just going to wrap the square. Like so, and trim the excess away. Try to bring that together gently so I don't completely flatten things out. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Now let's look back at our cane. And I'll go to the big end. So you can see where the white wrap that I just put down is. But there's black clay in between. There's a black clay separation. If I jammed them all together, it would just be white, 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 white. It would just be a white X. So what I need to do is make another wrap around in black, and that's what this space between the white corners is. Once again, you have choices. You can make these space very broad, wide. You can separate these 4 pieces by a lot by creating a lot of space between them. That would be a thick sheet. Or you can have these 4 corners very close together with a very thin black separation, and that would of course be a thin sheet. So it's really up to you. What I will do is I'm going to make kind of a medium. Okay, so this has been rolled through the thickest setting of the pasta machine. I think I will roll this through setting 3. And that is definitely setting 3. Remember, my machine starts at 0. So I'm going to need 2. I don't think it's long enough to wrap around, so let me make a strip that I know will definitely wrap around. Once again, I'm going to sandwich the clay and roll it through the same setting. Okay, hopefully this will be long enough and I don't have to piece it, but it wouldn't be such a horrible tragedy if I did. Okay, let's see what's cooking here. Oopsie. Okay, good. Very good. Now set that black aside and let's just trim this. Cutting away some of this. From this face of the cane. Now, sometimes, last time I did this, I made a bit of a mistake. And that was, I made a green one. As a matter of fact, I shot a green one. And then I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense, so I have to do it again. This is the 4th time. But you can see how this squared off here. Well, I didn't pay enough attention to the packing. So obviously, when I pushed the clay down, the clay went where it was going to go, not where I wanted it to go. And it kind of flattened right there. So I'm going to avoid that this time. And the way I do that is by first taking and pulling out each of the corners to make them slightly rounded. Right now, this is so rounded. These are so rounded. So just by taking and lightly pinching, I can draw out a more defined corner, you see. doesn't take much. It's just a few little pinches, and you have something that looks like this as opposed to something very round. I'm not going to say there's definitely right or wrong here. I don't think that what happened to the green one was a big tragedy or anything, but if you want something to be more defined and a slightly sharper corner, then you really should draw it out at this point, which I did not. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I just let things fly. It's like, oh, I'm going to see what happens here, and I just go right ahead and do it. And I don't really analyze or give certain things a great deal of thought. Because sometimes accidents can lead to some pretty interesting things. Okay, so now I've sharpened the corners as opposed to the way they were before. Okay, that goes in the scrap bin. Now, I am going to take and I'm going to cut this way, and I'm going to cut this way with my blade. Right, let me look and see. Yeah, that looks good. And I will do the slow walk down. And remember, you want to move. You want to use a nice rigid blade, not one of those really noodly flexi blades. I feel pretty confident in telling you that if you use a very flexy, noodly blade, you're going to be sorry. The clay likes to grab them, and it'll start pulling that blade through the clay in ways that you do not want. Okay, now, it's just a matter here of taking the pieces and turning them around. So in that way, it's kind of like a sort of a Natasha bead. And I did not cut straight, but it's not critical to me in this instance. Also, it's just bigger. Some days are diamonds, and some days you think, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Okay, so how would I not have done this? Made it crooked like this? I should have done the old drop the line down routine, where you actually do drop a line down on the side of the cane and you follow the line. But you know, these canes are not all that particular. It's not like making a face cane where if you make a mistake, the eye could end up in the wrong place entirely. Okay. All right, so these are not exactly, they are what they are, and they'll be fine in the finished cane. Okay. So let us fill the space in the middle. But first, I think it would be advisable to get rid of some of this excess clay. I do. Oops. It always helps to use the right side of the blade. Okay, that will be fine. Now let's fill these spaces. Of course, I'm just going to take some of this scrap clay, some of this clay, and I'm going to roll a cylinder. Doesn't have to be huge. I'm going to force this into a triangle. By just pinching, and then you flip it over and you pinch the next two sides. Flip, pinch, pinch, pinch. You can stroke like so, just to get it moving and make it a little longer. Okay. Let me cut this baby in half. And this is quite a small space that I'm going to be filling. So I wrote a very large piece of clay there for a very small space. It's such a small space, I might just be able to get away with just rolling a little snake there and pressing it in. But I've started this, so I might as well go all the way. Reducing triangles is pretty simple, actually. Once you get that clay moving, you'll find that just by taking these parts of your fingers, your thumb and your finger, and pressing against your work surface and pulling your fingers across, you can start stretching that clay out very nicely and maintain that nice triangular shape. Okay, so let's see. I got a nice little teeny triangle. So I will press that right down between the two pieces, filling in that space. And I'll do it on the other side as well. And there's my dog. Okay, I'm gonna cut and see what's happening with my dog. I'll be back. I'm back. I don't know what he was barking about. Oh, well, he's still barking. Okay, so if you look at this, you can see that little black triangle, as small as it is, it still sticks up a bit. So I'll try pushing it down just a tad to see if I can fill that space. Already I know it's going to be a much better intersection than the green one. So I'm not too concerned, because even if I just take this, push them together now like so, of course it will be black clay meeting black clay, and it will be fine. Okay, so let's do it. If I had a lot more excess clay, then I might actually slice it off, but I don't think it's really necessary at this point. Okay, so now I'm just going to try to push the clay together so that I fill in some of the airspace there. Let me pull those corners up just a tad. Okay. Now I can tell that there is extra clay right there. There's extra clay there in a few places. So what I will do now is I'm going to take my blade. Instead of jamming that clay into shape, I think it's better to remove it. One side. Two sides. Let's take a look at this side and see how it's doing. Remove some of this excess clay. And then on the fourth side, of course, I have to turn it over and make sure that the other side isn't completely wonky. Do my best. Way too much clay over here. Slice that away. And actually, the rest looks pretty good to me. Maybe just a little bit there. Okay. So let me just press each side with my palm just to flatten it out a bit. Okay. This is sucking back in, so I'm going to try to push that part out a bit. Okay, and I think that looks really good. Now we're going to take that second cylinder. Remember the cylinder? And what I need to do is I need from this cylinder to cut a block that is exactly the same dimensions as this one. Okay, it may be a little shorter, but what I'm really concerned about was cutting this out of this block. So I will just place it on the block, like so, and take my blade and cut straight down. There's one side. Turn it. Cut. Turn it again. And then cut this last side, like so. Okay, so it's pretty good. Pretty good. This side is a little wonky, but I am going to leave it just a bit. Actually, with my fingers, I will try to make it more square. Okay. All right. Now, this block is sliced, but it is sliced corner to corner. So I will cut this way, and then I will cut this way. And I'll just do the Sandra McCall walk it down the sides boogie. Left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way down. Now let's just turn it and repeat. Left, right, left, right. Here we go. Good deal. Okay. Now, each of these is just pressed to a side like this, because you can see in the pattern the actual motif has shifted. We made it this way, so I've been showing it to you this way, but the way I want it in the design is this way. So I have to reorient it to a new square. And that's what this is. Making a new square. Around the existing square. And I find this to be the simplest way. Okay. Okay. Let's just snug it all up. And I think you know what we're going to do now. We are going to trim away the excess and make a nice tidy square. Now let's check the other side. The other side's not too bad, but I have to cut more on this side. I can see more has to be cut from this side. And from this side. You looking square there, buddy? Okay. You know, even though the cat didn't quite make it, that little piece of cat tape didn't make it, I think in a really weird way it has helped me to stay in the middle of my work surface. Let's see if it continues. It shouldn't be so hard. It shouldn't be. All right, so there it is. Now I'm going to reduce it out. And, you know, I just made the border 4 up, so I'll just continue to do that. I don't know why I did 4. Easy to divide, I guess. So I will reduce this down, and I will aim for, I would say 12 inches. So let me just start. I won't do the whole reduction procedure because I've done it in other tutorials that you've probably watched. All right, so first of all, you know, I don't like the way that's hanging back. Let me see if I can just at least pull a bit of it up. I think that helps too. So if you see parts that are kind of hanging back and you think you can actually reach them, it's probably not a bad idea to try to pull them up so that when you start reducing, they don't just hang back on you. Okay. So I always like to start by pushing the face of the cane down, like so. I just push it down. So that, you know, the goal here is to try to even and level the whole face out before I even start. I expect to lose cane. You know, I don't know anybody who reduces so perfectly that you never have any waste. But I do believe it helps if you at least start with the face of the cane at the same or very close to the same level. Especially if you work as I do by pressing and pulling against my work surface. Okay, so I'm just flattening it all out. Now, so that's pretty good. That's pretty flat. And when I conditioned the white, I did make it softer. Even though it seemed to be fairly soft to begin with, I made it softer. So hopefully the pattern itself will start to pull up and out too, and it won't stay sunk into this mass of clay. All right, so now I'm going to start by pushing the sides. When I push the sides, I'm not just pushing this way, I'm pushing this way too. So I'm pushing side to side and down. I'm just pushing my hands down as well. The goal being to get the whole face of the cane flat on the work surface. And it's doing all right. So slam it down, push, and then push down. Side to side and down, side to side and down. Side to side and down. And, you know, working on marble or something as smooth as this is really great because it will help you. It will grab the clay as you're working. Okay, so I have to move the camera closer to me because I can't be reaching out to do this. It just doesn't work. All right, so you can see that that's working. Side to side and down. Side to side and down. And this side looks pretty good too. It looks very flat. All right, so I will continue doing this. And then at some point, the clay starts to move very quickly, so then I can grip the ends and pull. So if you're interested in seeing more of this, I believe it was in the Feather Cane Part 6, where you can see more reduction. So let me do this, and then I'll be back. All right, I reduced it. I don't know exactly how long it is, but let's cut the ends and find the good part of the cane. Just have to get myself situated. Ooh. Looks like some kind of weird Rorschach blot. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm just going to live with that because, you know, when I go to reduce it again, the ends are going to get wonky. So if it isn't absolutely perfect, that's okay. There's just straight black. La, la, la. because whenever you reduce, of course, you're going to lose cane. Okay, so this is my waist so far. Now, let's see how long this is. Longer than 12 inches, I would say. There's 12. Almost 14 inches. Almost. All right. So let me make this. If I make it 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's 14. So if I divide it into 4 pieces, my math skills are so bad, you guys. Okay, so 14, 7, 3.5. Hello. I am not good at math. 3.5. 7. 10 and 1/2. Let's put them together. Good, the 2 bad ones are at this end. Okay, so there we go. Now that's it. And this just needs to be reduced, or, you know, I tend to reduce like this. See, it's got one very thick, big end. And then I draw one end out and make it thinner. So I can show you how that's done. It's not difficult. First, let's smooth. Let's just smooth it all. Like so. And we're going to take the wonky end and work off of that and start pulling it up. So I secure it to my work surface, and then I start with this part of my hands. I start just compressing side to side like so. Then every now and then you gotta pull the middle out like so. And push and pull. Push and pull up. Push and pull up. Now, I don't know how other people do it, but this works the kind of the easiest for me to work this way. So this is what I've done so far. Every now and then you're going to want to take your rod and smooth like so. Okay, and then continue with this business. Compress and stretch and pull. And this kind of works best for me. Okay, so I won't do that anymore. I mean, I can keep going until it's really, really thin and really, really teeny, but I won't. let's just take a cut. And there it is. All right, so in the next part of our class, we're actually going to make a nice little pair of earrings. So let's continue on. So let's begin by just making something really, really simple. Just a little simple pair of earrings using these two. All right, so I'm going to start by cutting very thin pieces. And laying them on a ceramic tile. Now they're fine squared off like that, but I think they will look better if I curve the sides. So I'm going to do that. Move this out of the way so I don't destroy it. Take my blade and I'm just going to arc it. Like so. Let's do this one arc. So. Just like that. I think it looks better. Now, let me take a look, because this might actually be better. The shape might be better if I turn this around. And I think it is. Do you see the difference in the curve between the outside and the inside? Well, now it's more like a left and a right, and not two earrings that are exactly the same. I did reduce one end of this, and I could use the small end, like something like this. That would be fine, but I think I'll use the big one, and I reduced this just slightly, but I'm going to use the larger size. And I'm going to cut a thin piece here. Restore the roundness of the piece. Get a little rounder. Like so. Cut another thin one, trying to cut it the same thickness. Generally, when I do that, it gets a little bit thicker at the base. Put that one down like that, set that aside. Now I'm going to texture all of this. I'm not rolling it through the pasta machine, of course, because this shape will get very distorted. I like this. Here you can really see that jagged edge. And here we go. Okay, this goes in the oven and then I'll be back. So here is a pair of earrings I made, and I did cure little tiny, the smaller size, and they're really kind of cute, right? They're just simple, and they weigh nothing because look how thin they are. Now, I don't know how durable they are at this thinness. The only way to find out is for me to purposely try to break them. And I'm not going to do that. I mean, they feel perfectly fine for me, so I will keep these for me. They are so light that I will always have to wear them with this little stopper at the back because the wind could catch them, take them out of my ears, and they would be gone. Okay, so here is the other pair I cured, like so. But I'm going to strengthen them because they, like the other ones, are quite thin. I'm going to strengthen them by backing them. Now this is this color is a combination of gold and copper together. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to roll it very thin. So let me take this and roll it through 5 or 6. So this is 5 on my machine. I think I can go through 6. Don't need nearly this much. Set that aside because it's getting in my way. And what I'm going to do is texture both sides of this clay by sandwiching it again between the 2 texture sponges. Excellent. Okay, let's put it back on a tile. Oh. Next, I'm going to apply a light coat of liquid. Oops. Got a little extra on my clay. Oh well. On the back, and then put it down on the clay. And let's just trim this one quickly, and then I'll do a bullseye. Now, of course, these pieces are pretty easy to trim. You're just going to take your blade, cut into the clay, like so. Then repeat. And you can leave as much or as little of an edge as you like. I leave just a tiny bit just peeking out. And now I'm just going to round these ends. Like so. Just a bit, and that's where I'll drill a hole right there. And we'll repeat the same thing. Let me just cut that much off. And of course the hard part is making the next one exactly like the first. But you can see that's what's happening here. Okay, now I will do that after, but let's do the bullseye, and I'll do it way over here so I can put this piece here close by. I'm gonna put liquid clay on the back. Put it down, and now I'm going to trim and cut leaving a very tiny edge around in copper. Now, when you're doing something like this, it's frequently easier, rather than trying to move the blade, just take the blade, put it in the clay, and then move the tile underneath it. This is kind of like the paper people who move the paper into the scissors, right? They're not actually, when they're cutting, moving the scissor as much as they're moving the paper into the scissors. Hi, Dusty. There's my boy. Dust. Hi, Dust. He's right here. Good kitty. Good kitty, kitty. Whoops. Okay, so you can see. So now I will make these pieces and try to replicate the same thing I did with the other halves, and then I will be back. So all the pieces are cured. I took them off the tile. Now, if necessary, you can of course sand the edges with, well, I have Arbonite P80, and just smooth them out if you feel it's necessary. Okay, so now we have to drill holes here, 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 and we have to drill 2 holes in these, 1 in each. So let's start out here. So first you want to make just a little pilot hole. I'm using a needle tool. Then take a drill. Now this is kind of a cute drill I found, and what it is well, I'll lift this up so you can see how it works. So you can see it has a spring, and when you take this and you pull it down, the drill starts moving. Okay, the drill bit moves. So that's what I will use. I like it. Just like that. Now I have a little hole. Let me do the same thing here. Okay, turn it over. Repeat. that one looks a little too close to the edge for me, so I'm going to make another hole a little farther away from the edge. Because you can get so close to the edge that you create problems for yourself. All right, so now I've got all the holes in here, these two pieces, and now I have to put them in here. Now, these are the jump rings I'll be using. They're oval. I don't ever use round ones. They're always oval. And the reason for ovals, I have described before, is that when gravity pulls on an oval, it ensures that the opening is always on the side. In other words, a round ring will continue to rotate, and eventually it will end up in the wrong place, and that's when you lose your earrings or you lose pieces off of your necklaces. If you use ovals, that rarely, if ever, happens, because gravity pulls and it pulls the oval into place, and that's when the side opening remains on the side. It doesn't rotate. Okay, and this is a good sized oval. It's not really tiny. They do come in different sizes, but I want to make sure that I can thread it through here and thread it through here, and there will be enough room. Okay, so let me find a good spot. I am going to make the hole in this, right in there in the outer ring, like so. There we go. Take and put it in the pilot hole and start drilling. There. And when I drill using this tool, I drill on a cork trivet. I got a bunch of these from IKEA, and they were quite cheap. It was a pack of like 3, and they were not expensive, but they're a really good item to have if you're doing this kind of drilling. All right, now let's put everything together. What I need are flat nose pliers. I have 2 of them, and I'm sure you all know how to do this, but I'll describe it anyway. You're going to grip one side of the ring, grip the other, and then twist it open like so. You never open it this way. It's always... Let's get that in. Now I'm going to put this one in. And I will do the same thing in reverse. Okay, there we go. And I think you see what I mean about that opening always staying right there and not moving to the top or the bottom. Okay, let's do the other one. All right, and there are the earrings. Now I will just attach an earring finding to the top, and these are done. I like using stainless steel. I have kind of a mess here. Look at that. And these are very plain, but I like them. So I'm going to open it just like I did, just like I opened the O-ring. Thread it on, grip, and move it back into place. I have to get more earring findings. I seem to be out of them. I've used most of what I had, so I have to buy some more. Open it a little bit more. Okay, and they're done. These are kind of fun, I think. Okay, so it's just that simple. Now I will be continuing with the series of mud cloth canes and working with them. So I think that the more of these we have, the more, of course, options we have in terms of designing. Right now it's a little bit difficult to design with just 2 components, but for better or worse, we did it. So I want to thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something, I'd appreciate it if you'd like or subscribe. That'd be really great. And so, until we meet again, I'm Donna Kato. Goodbye.